through our dialogue, and to do so by countering the ignorance and misperceptions that can threaten improved understanding. Ramadan is a especially holy period for Muslims when we are devoted to dawn to dusk fasting, spiritual cleansing, prayers, good deeds, and active self restraint. In non pandemic times, we would share a wonderful breaking the fast iftar with friends like you. Yet, Ramadan means much more to Muslims than avoiding food and drinks during the day and feasting after sunset. One key aspect of Ramadan is the appreciation, indeed, the celebration of the all encompassing mercy and benevolence of the Lord, and to seek spiritual advancement through the deepest possible proximity to God. In fact, we draw upon the most glorious of Allah's attributes and names, Ar-Rahman, the all-merciful. We draw upon the exalted example of his messenger Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Rahmatan lil Alameen, the messenger of universal mercy. In Ramadan, particularly, we Muslims seek Allah's mercy for us and then act out of mercy toward his creation. In this month, divine proximity, the qurba as we refer to, is sought in two distinct ways toward elevated piety or taqwa. First, the self-directed acts of worship, including fasting during the day, the siyam, and practicing the night vigil, the qiyam. Secondly, selfless acts of goodness and compassion toward others, charity, sadaqah and zakat, feeding the poor and hungry, alleviating the sufferings of poverty, injustice, oppression, and calamities. Ramadan fasting is to enhance our self-restraint on baser desires by giving up during this month what is otherwise permissible, halal, so we may actively refrain from what is forbidden, haram, for the rest of the year. Fasting is linked to special proximity to Allah based on divine assurance that a Muslim's sincere fast is uniquely for God and he shall personally grant the reward. The night vigil is to establish a direct connection to God by focusing on his noble Quran, the illuminating divine book revealed during Ramadan and conveyed to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, through the Archangel Gabriel. One does so in seclusion by shedding worldly distractions and turning to the Lord in penitence, humility, and prayer. It is the combination of the siyam, the fast, and the qiyam, the night vigil, which heightens the piety of and proximity of Allah. And it is Muslims seek this with prayers, with dua, beseeching Allah for his mercy, his rahmah, his forgiveness, his maghfirah, and his protection from hellfire, Jahannam. Indeed, my friends, there is much to be prayed and hoped for today. With the second waves of pandemic raging in many regions, Muslims all over the world are praying for people all over the world with special fervor in these blessed Ramadan nights as we seek the night of power and destiny, Laylatul Qadr. As we see the rampant destruction brought about by the coronavirus, especially in countries like Brazil and India, where thousands are dying each day without access to hospitals, medical care, medicines, and oxygen, feelings abound of fear, anger, frustration, sadness, hopelessness, and despair. Our challenge, my friends, is to draw upon our faith, our divine connection, and our prayers to turn these difficult emotions into productive actions. My friends, we meet over the internet today, yet we must translate these blessed interfaith relationships into practical, on-the-ground impact for our shared concerns. On this point, I am quoting some excellent advice. It goes, we need to complete our prayer with bold action. So let us do one thing each day in memory of these pandemic victims. Call someone living in isolation. Support and volunteer at organizations that feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, protect the vulnerable, and visit the imprisoned. Wear a mask, keep your distance, and avoid gatherings. That is the least we can do. And for God's sake and our own sake, take the COVID vaccine to protect your and everyone's life. That is verbatim from our Chicago Archbishop Supich. Reverend Bema, kindly convey our Ramadan greetings to Cardinal Supich. Indicate my pleasure to relay his recent advice on the sad marking of the 500,000 coronavirus deaths in the US. So where do we go from here? Moving ahead with our treasured interfaith relationships, what we can realistically expect from this continued dialogue is a better understanding of each other, an environment conducive to peaceful coexistence, an articulation of common values and concerns, and above all, a willingness to work together for common causes. And my goodness, there sure are urgent issues demanding action. Institutional racism, rampant tribalism and supremacist movements, poverty, inequality, opioids and drugs, gun and domestic violence, oppression of minorities and climate change. God willing, the CIOGC and the Archdiocese communities will act together with hope for social transformation. And regarding hope, His Eminence Pope Francis put it best in his recent Ramadan message for Muslims around the world. He said, "We Christians and Muslims are called to be bearers of hope for the present life and for the life to come, and to be witnesses, restorers, and builders of this hope, especially for those experiencing difficulties and despair." With a collective amen to that, my dear friends, let's offer our own prayer. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, revered Lord of Ramadan, in these blessed days and glorious nights, we pray for your rahmah, your mercy on all of mankind. Let your all-encompassing benevolence forgive our transgressions with maghfirah and protect us from hellfire. Dear God of power, heal those infected by the deadly virus, ease the pain and hardships of families and businesses ravaged by the pandemic. Dear Lord of grace, grant peace and tranquility to the souls struck down by this virus and other illnesses. Dear God of virtue, inspire us to virtuous acts for all those impacted by the pandemic and from injustice, inequality, and oppression. Dear God of creation, guide us to togetherness as your created human family and to overcome the differences and misunderstandings which tear us apart. Oh Allah, guide, enlighten, and bless all engaged in the building of bridges of understanding amongst the mankind you created as varied tribes, nations, and races. Dear God of blessings, bless this important Muslim dialogue. Bless and guide the leaders and volunteers sustaining it, and guide us all to concrete collaboration for betterment of society. Amen. Ameen. Thank you.
Ameen, Ameen. Thank you so much, Brother Karim, for those inspiring words. And thank you, Father Bema, for your inspiring words. And we look forward to further engaging and strengthening our relationships and to putting our words into action. What an inspiring gathering this is, and to see everyone's faces and everyone so engaged. I'm very moved right now and feeling very emotional. So I apologize. I really don't have words to add to what you both have said. So thank you so much. So now the moment that we've all been waiting for, the breakout rooms. As with everything with technology, there could be a few glitches, but we're hoping that we will not, because we practiced breaking everyone out into the different rooms so that we can have more intimate conversations with each other, so that we can get to know each other. And so this will be a really fun time. So we'll have until 6:40, and I'm going to post some questions in the chat. And there's going to be five discussions and 6 groups. But one of the questions will be, we'll have that shared out to 2 of the groups. And so I want all of you to, we've assigned those questions to your group. And assign someone, after you discuss, assign someone who will report out for the rest of the group. So I'm going to drop the questions right now into the chat. Hold on 1 second. And oops, somebody else is coming in. Can everyone see the questions? Okay. So, Brother Shaib will separate us out into the different chat rooms. And group 1, you'll have, oops, yeah. Okay. Yes, group one, you'll share your spiritual practices related to prayer, fasting, charity. What are some of the common threads? Groups 2 and 4, you will discuss what might be some suggestions on how Muslim Catholic engagement could be developed into a more meaningful relationship that can benefit the larger community. And then group 3, how has the COVID-19 pandemic impacted the practice of your faith? So with that being said, Brother Shai, please take it away and divide up and take us into our rooms.
Thank you, Suzanne. So I've assigned people to the different rooms. I try to do a good mix. So as soon as I click open all rooms, all of you would be allocated to your respective rooms. And the topics that Suzanne talked about are in the chat. I know it's difficult to remember all the topics. You can always refer to them. And this is just a suggestion. If you'd like to discuss anything else, by all means, take it away. Thank you.
Hello. I see some familiar faces. Hello, I'm Lubna.
Assalamu alaikum, Lubna. How are you this evening?
Walaikum assalam.
Well, we do have some stalwarts in the this interfaith dialogue between Muslims and Catholics. I got introduced earlier to Jason Rinkin, and he gave me an excellent history. And he also, Father Don, informed me of your deep involvement, even now in retirement, to this particular process. So we welcome both of, or all three of you, to this particular conversation. Now, I know, I guess, I need to refresh is how do we see, I guess the question before us is how do we see what we can do to further strengthen this relationship through what kinds of actions or deeds or activities, etc. That kind of is a summary of the question. So let me kind of open up the floor and let's kind of go around and Lubna, for some reason you're you got the middle of the screen, so maybe that's a sign we should start with you.
Oh, me, Lubna?
Yeah, you are.
Oh, wow. Okay. It looks different on my side. I don't know. Okay, but I'll actually just go around because it does feel like, Jason, you are a familiar face to ICN. You've been to Islamic Center of Naperville?
I have, yes.
Yeah, I can, yeah. And even Donald, I think I have seen you in Islamic Center of Naperville. So that's nice to know. Yeah.
Been around a long time. So
Yes, sir. So it's nice to see familiar faces.
likewise.
Sure. So should I start by answering the question, Brother Abdullah?
Please.
Okay.
There's no wrong answer. We're just trying to get, let's say, our heartfelt beliefs so we can, forge a way to continue in what has been built up to this particular time.
I agree. And so I didn't, of course, think about this, but then I have been part of this interfaith group. And this last year, pandemic and all that, like this is the first time actually I'm attending an event for interfaith during this pandemic, because there were some sessions, but then it's like, it's virtual, so it's not going to be the same way. And I just never attended it, honestly speaking. But I think apart from this, like even little things which we can do with the community, which I feel is really helpful, like with our neighbors, like just, keeping the distance and still talking to each other, has been like, I didn't really miss it so much because I felt like, we always had that going. And that in itself is interfaith conversation, right? Because we have neighbors here who are from different faiths. And as long as at least that closer group you're doing, I think that also is a very important thing, because a lot of times I feel like some people are doing like big events, which is good, but then you forget about like your next door neighbors sometimes, like how are they doing? So that has been, in the pandemic time, we have been able to make some good connections with people who we maybe didn't sort of sometimes took for granted, right? So that was, but we can do a lot more, I know, but this little thought in my mind came.
Thank you. Thank you. I get just going from, at least as I'm looking at it, from right to left. Jason, you're next up. How do you see it?
Very much in the same way. Thank you, Lubna. Thank you again, Brother Abdullah, and again, some familiar faces here. I'm glad to see people first. I think that's the most refreshing thing of all, is coming to this gathering a little over 30 minutes ago and seeing so many brothers and sisters of the Catholic and Muslim faiths, being able to see people that haven't seen in ages. And in terms of being neighbors, sometimes, and I find over the past year to year and plus 2 months, sometimes it's hard to remember until you actually see people again. So these are always, I think, refreshing in bringing people together. And it reminds me of just last Thursday, I was fortunate to do a guest presentation on the importance of Catholic-Muslim dialogue within the context of a common word, the Common Word document that the Muslim community promulgated in 2007. And so this was to a class called the Quran and Bible that was being taught out at Lewis. I'm an adjunct instructor there for a number of classes, but this was for a different class. And it was, again, a refreshing gathering of about 15 students who were coming from wherever they were and making that impact of the community gathered together wherever they are. And coming again from, I would say, my Christian faith, that's also very much one of the statements that Jesus makes about the gatherings. Wherever 2 or 3 are gathered, that there Jesus is in their midst. And I would say, in terms of dialogue, wherever there are the 6 of us here that are gathered speaking about issues and matters of faith, that we are not, everything is beneficial from this in these types of gatherings. So that's what I'd like to say, and I'd like to hear others.
Okay, could we ask Sister Juliana Swain? Am I pronouncing your last name correctly? I apologize. You're muted. We can't hear you.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes, correct. Good evening, everyone. It's great to meet you all. And so my name is Juliana, and I'm from the Focolare movement, and one of the ecclesial movements in Catholic Church. But we have the members from all over the world and all the different faith communities. So actually a lot of Muslim brothers and sisters here in the USA, in Chicago particularly, but everywhere. So during the pandemic, we had a few very beautiful prayer services with all the different faith community. The first one was the last year, George Floyd, the very sad accident, but we really felt that we need to pray. So everybody joined, and was very special moment. Just 30 minutes, but was very powerful. So we had 2 imams that led us prayer, and the Catholic priest, or even lay people and young people. And so very short prayers, but felt really a strong moment, and another moment for an end of pandemic. So that's something that we felt really strong, everybody. So another 30 minutes prayer service was really beautiful moment. And another moments would be the dialogue with the Muslim community, especially for the racism. So we have different brothers and sisters of color. So we had the different sessions of conversations specifically on that topic, that how we can bring more love and fraternity really in action. And so, and then here in my community, one of our members, she's doing twice a month a prayer gathering with the 6 people and different community, the beliefs. So 2 Muslim sisters and from other communities. So they pray together and share their experience, how they lived their charity and the word from Quran or Bible they put into practice. So I think the pandemic couldn't stop us to going forward in our holy journey. I think this is what I would like to share with you.
Thanks so much for
Thank you.
sharing that. I feel like I want to be part of that group now.
Brother Azam, could you share how your vision for forging a way forward to strengthen the relationship between Muslims and Catholics?
Sure, inshallah. Sorry, I'm on my phone. I just came back from school, rushed in while I was joining in here. My first interaction in interfaith was at North Central College, and they used to have this New Year's prayers. So all these different religious groups would come forward. And I remember I was pretty young and I was kind of thrown into it. It's like, all right, go and do a prayer. So I go in there and I have some Quranic recitation, and it just happened that the recitation happened to be about Mary. And I just spent time talking about Mary from an Islamic lens. And I remember 2 Catholic sisters at the end coming towards me, and I'm wondering, like, oh God, did I say something wrong? What's happening? And they came and they said, you don't know, but there's actually a specific holiday or specific event at this time that you are speaking about Mary, and they were so touched by it. And to me, I think that is, one way forward. We have an amazing example in the story of Mary that connects our faiths in a very unique way that I think can even bring us closer together in our acts of helping other people. There's just this sense of comfortability that I think we as Muslims and Catholics have with each other because of the shared story that we have and because of the amazing connection that we have with Mary. So I think remembering these unique links and using them to push forward to help others will guide us to the best actions.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, please, if we turn to our elder statesperson, Father Don Sr., who I have a tremendous load of respect for as a fighter for fairness and social justice in the Chicagoland community, and his participation here in these interfaith dialogues is just a small testament to the great work that he has done over the years. So, Father Don, would you share your views, please?
Thanks, Abdullah. When you hang around long enough, you get I just want to say how grateful I am to be with each of you tonight. And the Iftar, the dinners that we had over the years, it was always a time of great joy to be with other people from other communities, the Muslim community here in Chicago, but also the great Middle Eastern food. I spent so much of my time in the biblical and archaeological studies in the Middle East, and it was always a joy. But what's going through my mind, and many of your reflections prompted also, we're living in such a time of such polarities and divisions, recriminations, the demeaning of refugees and migrants, been reading recently Pope Francis' encyclical called Fratelli Tutti. We're all brothers and sisters. And I think, we shouldn't underestimate the simple fact of what we're doing here, of communicating with each other with respect and reverence, even love in friendship, that it's a kind of witness that is so vital and becoming increasingly vital as our own national discourse, political and economic and otherwise, becomes so fragmented and raising such boundaries to people. So I just want to, I think Chicago, without getting chauvinistic, I think we're blessed with long traditions of friendship among our people. So I give thanks for that tonight, and thanks to each of you as part of this, and Abdullah, who's very involved in the Council of Religious Leaders Metropolitan Chicago, which is another great example of collaboration among religious traditions for the common good. So anyway, I feel very grateful tonight, very moved to be part of this, and I hope we don't ever lose this tradition, whatever the circumstances are in our country, our world. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you for those words. I kind of took notes down. I didn't mean to anoint myself as the speaker of the group. If someone wants to take that role, please do.
No, we acclaim you. We acclaim
and let me, because we're down to about 32 seconds. We're going to be clipped back into the main room any moment now. But I think the real challenge, and from as I look.
Wonderful. How did everybody's discussions go?
Hey, we need another half an hour, lady.
Yes, we need more time for sure. Time was not enough.
Who wants to listen to speeches and all that? Let's just talk and build trust.
Yes, exactly. So, that's wonderful. So we can hear from the group. So we want to go with group one. We'll go in order. Who is your group leader? And you can share out for 1 minute some reflections from your question.
So
well, I'll go. Go ahead.
I was just going to say we ended too quickly. We never decided. But Angela, if you'd like to, that'd be great.
Sure. So Angela Swain with the Archdiocese of Chicago. My group was really moving. It was really important for me, I think, to hear everyone's story. So people were sharing what Ramadan means to them, what it really means to fast, to give up, to break old habits, to form new habits. And the doctor, I'm sorry, I can't remember your first name, but he was really helpful in really sharing that the human can take it. And it's all about the mindset that you have going into it, which is really helpful for me. I think it was really important to hear people's stories about their children. A lot of us have children. And so to see, my heart got really full because it's really about, it's about us, yes, but it's really about how we're forming the young people and how they're growing up. And I shared briefly how my son, who's 11, told me last week, he's like, Mom, do you know we're celebrating Ramadan? And that was like, wow, like I didn't share that with him, but out of his friendships with people from his school, which is very diverse, he has an understanding that I didn't have at that age. And so I'm just appreciative for the invitation of conversations like this to continue the dialogue and to continue the nurturing and development that our children will share and grow into.
Wonderful. Okay, group two, you're on.
Group two, let me speak on behalf of the group. We addressed this issue of how to forge forward in the relationship between Catholics and Muslims, and the common theme from almost everyone is the dialogue must continue. Through that, do we get better understand the humanity that exists between all of us, our common values, even as one person pointed out, even there's common religious points in terms of the story of Mary and how there's commonality in alignment and belief and how it touches and moves people from both faith traditions. The other thing was important was prayer groups. how they shared their experience, how prayer groups, even particularly during this time of pandemic, was grounding for them. And even to the point of having prayer groups on a regular basis, even if it's only four or five people, but to come together in prayer from that spiritual experience. And I think the last point, as I review my notes quickly, I think what was important was that recognizing that the challenge that lies in this society today with the degree of division around religion, around politics, around even economic policies, that it is now more important than ever that we continue to continue this dialogue, and more importantly, dialogue on some of the problems that we face, and be from there build solutions that we as faith communities can offer our neighbors.
All right, that's wonderful. Okay, group 3, you're on.
Melanie Barrett, professor of moral theology. We had the COVID question, so I'll mention 4 things we discussed. First of all, we talked about the fact that during the lockdown last spring, the sense of spiritual loss, both for Muslims who are morally obligated to attend Friday prayer and Catholics who are morally obligated to attend Sunday Mass, and the unprecedented nature that never before in history have we been unable to obey, to live out our spiritual obligations in terms of worship. Second, that the one benefit for personal prayer, that there's opportunity during Ramadan, during Lent for Catholics, because of fewer distractions, fewer social obligations, allows us to focus more on the requirements of personal prayer and deeper individual spirituality. Third, that social media has been a real benefit, that even though this is unprecedented in history, that at least it happened during a time where we had some ability to reach out to people through social media. And fourth, the challenge of reaching out to people who are suffering. Those suffering not only with COVID, but even other things like cancer, who need spiritual support, who need family support, and the challenges of not being able to have funerals for a time, not being able to visit people in hospitals, and to provide spiritual support for them because of all the restrictions, and that being a particular challenge.
Wonderful. Group
Okay.
4.
Thank you.
Yes, assalamu alaikum. My name is Rania Zathar. I'm a paraprofessional middle school, and I'm an author in Arabic and English. I have to tell that I felt so lucky to be in group 4. They were all awesome, and it was really nice meeting them. I wish if we had more time, as Brother Kareem said. The conversation was really entertaining and informative, and we spoke about different important things that we need to do to improve our relationship as Muslims and Catholic, and I think as Muslim and non-Muslims, and as all different religions together. Brother, so some of the points that we talked about, Father Baima talked about how important to know each other as persons, as humans, before like focus on any differences. Then any differences would be just will be easily taken. And then we talked also about the importance. Brother Charles Muhammad spoke about the importance of teaching second language in schools, and I totally agree with this because I think it's very important to export, like make our children able to see and interact with different cultures and different religions and different. So it's starting this from the beginning, the very beginning in young age. I think it's very important thing. I think, did I forget anything else?
No, I think Reverend Bema's point was very important. Reverend Bema, perhaps you yourself should make it, because that is directly applicable to everybody. The fact that neither the Muslims nor the Catholics or other faith groups are a monolithic group. So Tom, you state that perfectly. Please summarize that, because I believe everybody should hear that.
You had raised the point of difference you see when you travel to India between how the faith is presented in the mosques there and how you present it here, the emphasis on mercy here as opposed to hellfire. over there. And I was merely pointing out that both of our religious traditions have this, and that we have an obligation, I think, first to our own co-religionists, to call them to a richer expression of their own tradition. And at the same time, to make it very clear to our partners that our religions are not monolithic, that there's a great variety across the world, and they shouldn't universalize a single experience, but to recognize that these traditions have a depth and a breadth that isn't always presented by its members.
Beautiful. How about group 5?
Before we move on, I'd like to add a bit about the analogy of learning a different language compared to learning a different religion. So that was kind of the part of the point that was being made that Sister Ronnie just pointed out, that it's enriching us when we learn a different language, but it also is just as enriching when we learn about a different religion. And the analogy about how you get more understanding about your own language when you learn another language. Similarly, you get more understanding about your own religion when you learn about another religion, especially in the Abrahamic tradition.
Very true, very true. Group 5?
Yes, good evening and assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm puzzled really that group 4 was able to get all that information in such a small amount of time. So good for you guys. Our group talked about, really focused on one major area, and that was, we've been dialoguing for many, many years as Muslims and Catholics, particularly through the Council and the Archdiocese. And given that we talked about what are the next steps we can do, what are the sort of cooperation steps that we can, say, we can spend a century together and talk about concepts and philosophies and education, but at the end of the day, we have to live out ourselves as human beings and get to know one another as the Quran calls us to do. So we were fortunate in our group to have, members of the Archdiocese Office of Human Dignity and Solidarity, and we talked about how I think it was it Michael who mentioned that there's a lot of work that we can do together through that particular office. And Sabina then mentioned how, the CIGC has had a green Ramadan program for several years now. And the fact that we believe as people of faith that the earth and the environment are so integral to our own spirituality, that perhaps getting together to talk about these areas of convergence of people of faith, particularly as it relates to the environment, would be a really wonderful thing. Who believe in life, as people who believe in nature, the spirituality of nature, that we can do at least one. We get together as members of our respective committees and organizations and just sit and talk about what are the things that we can do to make a difference in our community, and just plan out something in the next few months, just one even event that can get even young people involved, that show the importance of the environment, but particularly from a people of faith perspective. Of course, it's not going to be exclusive, but the emphasis on faith and spirituality, faith, and environment is something we talked about. That's great. Yeah, I think that was pretty much it. But if anybody else wants to add anything, feel free from my group.
So we'll move to group 6. Paula, you want to share out?
Oh, okay. Group 6, our task was to discuss how the pandemic had changed our faith practice. And we both shared that we come from faiths that depend on community involvement and on group gatherings and sharings and the Friday prayers, the Sunday prayers, etc. And when everything was shut down, what did we do, and how did we accommodate both our need to be together and the necessity of preserving our health and our safety? So in both of us talked about the virtual, the Zoom call, whoever knew that even existed, and that we've been able to adapt practices that way. And we talked a little bit about that, but we also talked about what did it mean to be home, and how do we share our faith practices with our families and the people with whom we deal and live with. And that was, I think, very important and enlightening. I think Dr. Salul talked about being home at Ramadan instead of running, getting ready for the meal and going for the evening prayers and rushing at the end of the day in Ramadan. Instead, to do that as a family deepened its meaning. And I think some of us have been forced to say, we have some of these practices because we are accustomed to them, we're habituated to them. When we are forced to reconsider them, it caused us to really think about what the practices meant, what they mean to us, and what God has asked us to consider through our communal gatherings we could no longer have. So that was an interesting moment to say, sometimes when you are forced into a situation where you have to change, you have to, again, it's like people said, it's being moved to a foreign country, and it makes you more yourself. I never felt more like an American than when I lived in Europe. So in some ways, when we're forced into a situation that's different, we have to ask ourselves what is important. So many of us discovered what was really important during the time of pandemic.
Very true. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone who shared out and everyone who participated in the breakout rooms. I want to bring up Dan Olson to do some closing remarks, but first I just want to share a personal story. In 2017, when the travel ban was signed into law, when many people went to the airports, to rally against the Muslim ban, there were 3 Catholic sisters who were sitting on a bench, and I kept looking at them, and they were holding up a sign that said, "We're all Muslims today." These are the Dugan Sisters, Mary, Anne, and Claire. And ever since then, we've become very good friends with them. And we've had our own private Muslim Catholic dialogue since 2017. They've been to our home, we've been to their home, and they're just, we've become very good friends. And that human interaction and that getting to know them and that creating that relationship with the Dugan Sisters really opened up my eyes to so many things and really just expanded my horizon. And I'm so proud and so honored to be here with all of you. And as we're all enjoying this conversation, but all good things must end. And I want to introduce Dan Olson so that he can do some closing remarks. And then we'll have also CIOGC's Executive Director, Abdullah Mitchell, to close out the evening. Take it away, Dan.
Thanks, Suzanne. I just want to briefly say I'm just extremely grateful right now. It's striking to me that 7.5 years ago, I don't think I knew any of you. And now tonight, it's hard to conceive of life without knowing all of you. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for Shoaib and Suzanne for planning and organizing this wonderful event. I encourage you all to either virtually or physically clap your hands and let them know how grateful you are for the great work they did in pulling this together tonight. I want to congratulate also Kareem for knowing the Catholic leadership and her statements better than most Catholics. That was tremendous. It was really, I appreciate that. I would also say I'm just as a representative of the Archdiocese, very much looking forward to future gatherings, hopefully in person in coming years, and renewing our commitment to this gathering. I happen to look forward before this gathering tonight to next year. April 2nd to May 2nd is Ramadan. Easter's on April 17th. So we may be doubly blessed next year to celebrate these special holy seasons for both of us around the same time. So thank you all for tonight, and let me turn over to Abdullah.
Dan, thank you. Suzanne, thank you. It's been an evening of inspiration, I agree. And gratitude is a most appropriate way to express how I feel and how I'm hoping all of us feel, because we had a unique opportunity to experience that special blessing that comes from when we gather together, a reaffirmation that we are not alone in our beliefs and our values that drive and form that foundation of our lives. So on behalf of the Council of Greater Chicago, and I wish to extend our sincere thanks and gratitude to both of our speakers, Father Thomas Baila and Kareem Arifan for words of inspiration and words to uplift our spirits. And I wish to thank once again those people behind the scenes, both Suzanne Aklas and Shuaib Qadri as co-chair of our Interfaith Committee, leading the drive and organizing our evening this evening. And I thank each and every one of you as participants, without whom this would not have been the same kind of experience. I would like to close out our meeting now with a translation of a prayer that we traditionally end meetings. And it's significant because it does underscore in my mind why we're here engaging in interfaith dialogue. Because it's a reminder by our Creator that verily all of us, mankind, are at lost if we first do not believe in his guidance, and if we do not perform acts of charity and good deeds, and to remind ourselves, as we do tonight, that we must adhere and follow truth, and that we must, no matter the trials that confront us as a nation, as God-fearing people, we must not lose patience and lose sight of the blessings we have been bestowed. Excuse me. So with those words, I greet you all with peace and have a blessed evening.
Everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Take care.
Wonderful effort, Sister Susan and Brother Shuaib and Dan Olson. And we are looking forward, Dan, you will love working with these two people. They are phenomenal because they are practically oriented and they have proven track records in delivering. So I'm terribly excited about the future of the Interfaith Committee at the council end under the leadership of these two folks. And Dan is very, very committed. Suzanne and Shoaib, you will love working with him. And you can be assured that Reverend Bema and I will be standing right behind to do anything possible to continue to make this successful. Take care, folks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.